OTAs are underway, and we've got live football going on at West 56th Street. So, what are the updates coming out of Colts camp, and specifically that of Anthony Richardson? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com, part of the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here by my colleague and co-host here at Horseshoe Huddle, Drake Wally. Drake, they're not in full pads, only helmets and shorts, but hey, we've got offense versus defense finally. Spring practices are in full effect. How you doing, man? It's great to be here talking Colts football with you once again.
Yeah, and right before what will be an awesome racing weekend and everything too. It's going to be a nice
Absolutely.
Memorial Day weekend, so go watch yourself some Indy car. But I was actually going to say that it's just nice. Everyone's super excited about these particular OTAs because it's a new era. Just like Destin Adams on our channel wrote about. It's a new era of football. It's taken a long time to get here. There's been a lot of steps, some real tense moments where a trade up happened where you thought this dude was gone. I mean, so everyone's really excited to see 12 rookies and see how they're doing, but especially Anthony Richardson.
Absolutely. Hey, man, Memorial Day weekend, a lot of people look forward to going to the lake, having barbecues. Me, it's all about my first love, and that is auto racing. For me, my Sunday is going to start out getting up early, having breakfast, watching F1 Monaco. Then we're going to have a nice lunch watching the Indy 500, and then wrap it all up with dinner and the Coke 600, where the NASCAR boys finish off the night. So I'm super stoked for Memorial Day weekend and all the racing that I get to watch. But what we're here to talk about football. Quentin is able to join us live tonight. Good to see you, buddy. It's always great when you're in the chat. Patrick, the legend that was last episode, Patrick is back. Doesn't seem like you're feeling too hot today, Patrick. But hey, we're gonna
Get
cheer you
well.
up with some talk, with some Colts talk tonight. Of course, stats. Matt, his daughter doesn't have a softball game, so he was able to finally make it tonight. Good to see you, buddy, as always. Before we get started, guys, go ahead and just read the ticker down below. Go ahead, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, so you never miss an episode of the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. And if you do by chance have to miss us live, we're on all the podcast platforms as well: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. We are right there and booming. And you can always watch us on YouTube as well. CMDSR from Virginia, always good to see you, buddy. So let's give the people what they want, Drake. Let's talk about Colts OTAs. So Colts started out OTAs this week. They have 10 sessions of OTA practices really before the mandatory mini camp, which is June 13th, I think, June 12th or 13th through the 15th, somewhere around there. But these practices and OTAs are really, like we said, they're helmets, they're shorts, not a lot of contact, but they're able to finally do offense versus defense, 7-on-7, 11-on-11. We really get to see these guys going up against each other for the first time. And honestly, all eyes, as expected, are going to be on Anthony Richardson. And so far, guys, Anthony Richardson, he's been impressing. He really has been impressing this Colts staff. His teammates, a lot of veterans have came out, talked about obviously the arm strength and everything, but they've really talked about how he has been around the building, which has really been pretty impressive. So Drake, as we go along, I'll let you kind of take the floor first as what we're all hearing. What are some of the things that the Colts have been impressed with Anthony Richardson so far?
Well, I mean, right out of the gate, even Shane Steichen has been, quite blown away by his processing ability and what he's been, the plays he's been able to make, some of those skills he's been able to actually exhibit. And it's one thing to see it on tape, to send a scout to watch it, when he's at a combine and just throwing, to receivers. It's another when he's now your quarterback, that you're developing and you're watching this thing in person. So I'm sure it's surprising Steichen, because I'm sure Steichen was probably thinking, it's going to be a huge project here, that he was ready to take on. But he's not going to go out there and say, if he's struggling, hey, he's struggling immensely. He's not going to say that, but he's
Right.
also not going to lie. He's not going to be like this. Yeah, he's really impressing, the coaching staff and everybody. And I actually, our own Destin Adams put out a tweet that had a quote, and I'm not sure who it's from. I think it's Shane Steichen, but this is from someone in the Colts building. Quote, every conversation with him, you can see his focus is on improving. And I don't just mean as a quarterback. He wants to know the area of Indianapolis better. He wants to be a better teammate. He wants to be a better man. He's tremendous, huge word, to be around. And his overall want to be great is contagious. When your overall want to be the best comes from your quarterback that is 21 years old and he has limited experience, that's going to impress a lot of veterans because of especially how the 2022 season went.
Right. I mean, it's just really his whole mentality, his how he wants to be in the building. He wants to be coached, wants to be really coached hard. And I think the biggest thing out of all this is he's grasping the offense very quickly. There haven't been any hiccups in that regard, and the Colts are teaching him a lot of different things. I mean, Anthony Richardson himself in rookie minicamp had said one of the biggest differences or the biggest changes and things he's had to learn is taking a 5-step drop out of shotgun. I mean, he said he never really done that in his life, whether it was in high school or at Florida. And the Colts have really been drilling him on that. And he said it feels different. He's been working on speeding up his footwork. But that's the thing. Anthony Richardson doesn't want to just come and say, hey, fit the offense around what I want to do now. Anthony Richardson wants to continue to work on every aspect of his game, whether it is continuing to work on throwing with touch, the footwork that is going to be so crucial for this rookie quarterback to be able to succeed once he does get on the field. Every little detail. And then as Destin was talking with his source about Anthony Richardson and kind of how he has acclimated himself within the building. Just very impressive. He's not coming into this like a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old. He's coming into it with a very mature mindset. He understands that this is his job now. His job is football. Where and we talk about, how much did we talk about how when Shane Steichen was looking for a quarterback, that obsessiveness, that obsession with the craft and to get better every single day. And while it is a small sample size, granted he hasn't even been a Colt for a month yet, but it's a very good sign that Anthony Richardson is already taking this approach to being a quarterback. And it doesn't seem like it seems like this is all real. This isn't a show.
Yeah, and the thing is, as we've seen from examples past, you can't always see when there's the mindset maybe not in sync with the job. A la Ryan Leaf, you kind of heard right away, I'm going to take my bonus and take my boys to Vegas. Okay, that was a clear sign that maybe that's not the right guy, but you want to see that from someone who's as young as Richardson. He needs to fall into this pool as a sponge. Okay, he needs to literally soak up as much as possible, as quickly as possible. And there was actually something else that Steichen said. He said, I think he was asked, just simply how has Richardson been progressing in your opinion? And he said, you know what, he's done a really nice job. I've been very pleased with where he's at mentally, which, as you and I said, the physical tools are there. It's what's between the ears that's going to make or break a quarterback. And he made some big plays today on the football field. He made some great throws, great decisions, some really next level stuff I've seen over the last couple of days. I've been really pleased with where he's at. And that is just everything.
And that's why I think, I mean, with him, with the Colts and Shane Steichen just kind of going out of his way to even bring up the mental processing about all of this. I mean, that was the biggest question mark. We know the athletic traits are there, the strong arm and everything, the speed, the ability to run with the football. It was about that mental capacity with his game. How quickly is he going to be able to grasp an NFL offense, process defenses? Because it's a lot different when you're sitting in a classroom and you're able to dissect it on a whiteboard, but can you do it when there's 300-pound men running at you from all directions, and you have to be ready to throw the ball within a split second. You know what I mean? So just being able to, and Steichen kind of touched on this today, being able to take what you learn in the classroom or in the meeting room and translate that on the field, that is what they are looking for with Anthony Richardson. And so far, he's been able to do that within the small sample size that the Colts have been. The Colts have given him. So, and guys in the chat, if you do have a question about Anthony Richardson or anything else that are going on to OTAs, definitely throw that in there. Give us a super chat. We'll make sure to highlight that and really talk about that. But I think the biggest news that came out of OTAs today, Anthony Richardson is already splitting first team reps with Gardner Minshew. So we had talked about it, how Gardner Minshew was going to start as the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts here in the spring, and we'd see how slowly the Colts would bring Anthony Richardson along. The fact that in their first setting of offense versus defense, and Anthony Richardson is already getting thrown in there and getting starting reps with Gardner Minshew, I think that's a huge sign that they feel like Anthony Richardson is progressing very quickly. And I really do think it bodes well to the Colts throwing him into the fire, so to say, and increases his chances of starting week 1 at Lucas Oil Stadium against the Jacksonville Jaguars. What do you think, Drake?
I think that's a huge sign as well, because at this trajectory, especially this early, because I think that, what was it, yesterday was the first day that media was allowed at the Colts OTAs.
Today was the first day. And like I said, today was the third out of 10 OTA sessions. Media is allowed to see one of those per week. So over the next few weeks, the media will be at 2 more of those. And then the next time when the media can see this team all together will be the week of June 12th, 13th, when the Colts are in full pads for mandatory minicamp.
Okay, yeah. The thing is, it's huge that he's already, like you said, splitting these first team snaps. He's very quickly starting to get into, like, he's getting these very valuable reps that he's going to need with the first team veterans, these guys that he's going to be standing behind, that are going to be blocking and protecting him. You want to get to know them very well. So the fact that he is in the first week of OTAs, he's already starting to get those very valuable snaps like we've talked about. That's huge. And it's also even perhaps bigger. Obviously, you want to know your offensive line. You want them to know you. But man, he gets to work with the weapons that are going to be at his disposal. That's the biggest thing. He gets to understand them mentally. Are they, is it better for them if I throw it on the break, or should I wait a moment? Like, it's all about that mental connection. And it might be the most important. He gets it with the veterans over Josh Downs, because Josh Downs is also a rookie. And like Richardson, they're coming in on the same level. So they're already probably connecting. Obviously, they were throwing to each other in a parking lot. But this is just huge. It's great to hear that he's already starting to split those first team snaps. And like I said, at this trajectory, he could be a week 1 starter.
And I've got to put this up there. As long as StatsMatt says, as long as we aren't the Patriots and getting picks taken away, the Patriots have already been nabbed for cheating, in quotes, for breaking the rules of OTAs. They had an unapproved meeting, I think, something, nothing egregious, but it would be the Patriots to go and break those rules. But anyways, I think him splitting the reps with Gardner Minshew, the first team reps, he's going up against the first team defense as well. So it's not like you're going up against backups or guys that aren't going to have a big role on game day right out the gate. He's going up against guys that are going to be playing the majority of the snaps on Sundays. So when you're going up against guys like Zaire Franklin and Kenny Moore, Isaiah Rodgers, Julian Blackman in the secondary, that's going to toughen you up. And the big highlight of the day from Anthony Richardson on Thursday was he was able to throw a nice deep ball with some touch down the seam to Kylan Granson, who took it for what would have been a 60-yard touchdown running away. So it's just good to kind of see those various things, being, like you said, being able to create connections with the wide receivers and the tight ends, being able to communicate with his wide receivers how exactly he likes routes to be run, where he likes to place the ball, where he likes to throw the ball kind of out of the break. All of that stuff is crucial to the success of this team and this offense this year. And I'm sure as they go through the summer, they'll meet up outside of the complex. Then they go through training camp and you work on those things. But really being able to create a connection with your wide receivers, your tight ends, with really any of your weapons, I think that's very underrated in the success of a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, when really you're throwing to these guys for the first time ever, honestly. So when you want to be able to create those connections, so it just makes things easy coming out of the gate. You're not having to worry about, well, where is this guy going to be on every single play. It's not going to be perfect week one, but the more you can drill that down and the more comfortable you can get with your weapons, that is just going to really help boost and make it a better environment for a rookie quarterback like Anthony Richardson to succeed.
Well, and that's a huge part too, is the environment. You want it to be not to sound like elementary, like literally, but you want it to be nurturing. You want it to be like one that's very inviting and like, hey, we're here to grow with you. I mean, this is a ridiculously young team. And guess what? Even though Shane Steichen's like 37 or 38, that's young for a head coach. And he's also walking into his first ever head coaching gig with a guy that is a rookie quarterback and a very young team. So this is all level playing field, I think, from coaching all the way down to the third string guys. I mean, this is an incredibly raw squad that I think the oldest guy right now is literally Ryan Kelly, and he's not even 30, I don't think. So it's like they don't even have a 30-year-old player. This is a super duper young squad. But real quick, there was one more thing Steichen said. He goes, he's been great, I think, as a quarterback. Obviously, learning the system is a big part of it. You know what I mean? It's been, but it's knowing where to throw it, when to throw it, and how to throw it. And I think he's taken on the coaching really well and understanding the rhythm, which that's another huge word, and the timing of the passing game and what we're trying to get accomplished. And he's done a nice job. So he's getting the trust of the most important mind in the entire coaching staff. And that also translates to Jim Bob Cooter at offensive coordinator and Cam Turner at quarterback coach. That's huge.
Wanted to give a shout out to my wife here with the super sticker. She's up in South Bend getting ready to head on a fun trip this weekend with her mom and some of her friends, going on a girls trip to Gatlinburg. So appreciate the support from my wife here.
Beautiful place. She's gonna have fun.
Yeah, she is. Love you. Be safe and send me a lot of pictures. Enjoy your time down there in Gatlinburg. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Jack Rizzo. He comments here. Just wanted to thank you all for the tips you've given me, which has allowed me to start my own podcast. Keep up the great work. Much love, Jack. Jack, we really do appreciate you. And as being a fan, being a supporter, and if you guys want to listen to his podcast, it's called the 12th Horseshoe
Highly
Podcast.
recommend.
I think it's a combination of Jack being a Colts fan and then his friend Eli being a Seahawks fan, something of that nature. But go ahead and check it out, Jack. Always appreciate when you're coming along. But Drake, getting back to Anthony Richardson, and it really. I really liked Steichen's comments when he was talking about the rhythm and where does that rhythm come from? Live reps in practice, in games. You're not going to be able to develop that just in a controlled setting. It has to be a rhythm when you have those big bodies flying around you. So I expect Anthony Richardson to get a ton of reps throughout training camp. You can expect Anthony Richardson to play a ton in the preseason as well, because the more reps that he is able to get, the easier and the quicker he is going to be able to learn and get these things down. So I think the Colts have a really good plan with Anthony Richardson. And I wrote in my piece that I just put out on horseshoehuddle.com before we came live here, is the Colts have always said that they're going to take things slow with Anthony Richardson and not put too much on his plate or throw him into the fire when he's not ready. But there's also, it seems like there's a sense of urgency with Anthony Richardson as well, because you're in this window right now where you're going to have a starting quarterback on a rookie deal and a potentially really, really good starting quarterback on a rookie deal. So when you have that, this is that window where you can pay some other positions because you're not divvying up a huge amount of cap space to your quarterback. You can pay other positions, bring some different stars in to go make a run out of Super Bowl. And so while the Colts aren't thinking, I don't think the Colts chances of that in 2023 are very high, but you can look at 2024, 2025, and then start looking at that. So the quicker you can get Anthony Richardson up to speed and game ready, the quicker you can get started on that process and see if he can reach his ceiling, his very, very high ceiling, so that way you can try to go on that run. But in my opinion, yes, it is still May. Everything is still in helmets and shorts. But in my opinion, Anthony Richardson has done everything the right way. He's done everything the Colts have asked him and more. And for just that small sample size and where we are currently at OTAs, I think you couldn't be happier with the progress Anthony Richardson has made so far.
Yeah, and there was something else that Steichen was asked about, the insurance policy. So that being Minshew, what is it, something about how has Gardner Minshew and, have they meshed together as the starter and the backup. And he actually mentioned that he loves how Gardner has taken him under his wing and he's showing him the ropes and stuff like that. Man, you mix that with that he's getting half the first team snaps already, that there's that sense of urgency, there's that rookie deal, and there's the need for those live reps. To me, it's pointing towards that they really, really desperately want to get him out there under center week 1.
I'm going to give a shout out to Gardner Minshew too, and he's earning a lot of respect because there's quarterbacks out there that when you come into a new team and they draft a rookie quarterback, I mean Gardner Minshew could very easily say, you know what, Anthony, you're on your own. I'm here to
Ryan
fight.
Tannehill did.
Right, Ryan Tannehill has been doing this. I'm here to fight. It's not my job to help you. I'm here to better my game and win this starting spot. And while Minshew is out there competing and working on his game, Steichen has said that Minshew has really taken Anthony Richardson under his wing to try to help him answer any questions that he might have and really try to prep him to get him up to speed as quickly as possible. Stats Matt says the Big Ben method. Yep. Big Ben was notorious for not wanting to help out his backups or young guys playing behind him. But yeah, Gardner Minshew has really earned a lot of respect from me as far as him doing that. And this is why I think the Colts brought in Gardner Minshew as well. Shane Steichen knew this is what they were going to get out of Gardner Minshew and that he would be this type of teammate. He's always been lauded for being a fantastic teammate and a fantastic locker room guy. So good on Gardner Minshew for that. And I also want to bring this up here from Rich Wheeler. Says Samson Ebukam's quote on the dual threat of Anthony Richardson. I feel bad for the other teams for real. And yes, I do too. Shout out to my mother-in-law for tuning in. She says, "Go Irish" from up there in South Bend. Good to see you, Kim. Please keep my beautiful wife safe as you guys drive down there and don't have too much fun. But yeah, I think Anthony Richardson has done everything that the Colts have asked. I'm excited to see how he continues to progress throughout the rest of the spring and into the summer. So some other news, let's talk about some of the other big stars for the Indianapolis Colts. Shaquille Leonard, Michael Pittman Jr., and Jonathan Taylor were all out of today's session. Now, again, I want to preface this by saying OTAs 100% voluntary. So even if they're out, they're not really missing anything that's mandatory, but attendance has been really high. And these guys, none of them were out for because they wanted to be out, I should say, maybe outside of Pittman, but Shaquille Leonard dealing with that back injury, had that second surgery last winter. He was out today. Michael Pittman Jr. was out, not because of an injury, but because him and his wife Kiana were having their second kid, a baby boy. So shout out to Pittman and his wife Kiana. Congrats. Hope everything is going well there. And Jonathan Taylor, coming off of that ankle surgery, was more resting than necessarily he being in pain. The Colts are really just trying to bring him back pretty slowly. And during OTAs, Jonathan Taylor really never does anything since he's a running back anyway. You don't want to put any extra wear on that body. But really, Drake, do you think there is cause for concern? Maybe I would say with Pittman, obviously, but is there cause for concern with Shaquille Leonard or Jonathan Taylor or any of the other players that we'll get to here that missed today's practice?
I don't think so, and I trust Shane Steichen. I mean, again, kind of going back to what we said earlier, they're not going to come out and say, "Oh, terrible timeline of recovery here. Timetable is awful." They're never going to say that, but he said he said about Shaq that he's progressing well. He's progressing well with his back injury, and the thing is, you don't want to rush him out there too quick. He's got the experience, right? This guy knows he knows the ropes and everything. He's going to be fine. You want to make sure that guy is 100% because he, changes your entire defense just being on the field as a turnover machine. And as far as Jonathan Taylor, just like you said, if it was a shoulder thing, if it was a hip thing, rib thing, whatever, upper body, okay. Maybe you're like, all right, typically he doesn't really do a lot, but, this is extra because it's his ankle. And so it's what he runs on. And you like going to the wear and tear argument that you were making, it's double sure that you want to make sure he's ready. Because again, kind of like Shaquille Leonard for the defense, this guy is still, even though Anthony Richardson is a big, I know that everyone's excited about him and everyone's excited about the receivers and tight ends. This is still what the offense runs through.
Right. AP asks, when is Shaq coming back? That's a great question, AP.
Yeah.
No one really knows. And that's not to make this an ominous situation or anything, but it's just when you're dealing with back and nerve injuries, it's real finicky. I mean, he thought he was going to be able to play last year and things just didn't go the right way. Now, I will say this, right after that second surgery took place, Shaquille Leonard said he immediately felt a difference as far as being able to his nerves and everything firing off within his calf, from his back down to his calf into his ankle, where all this has kind of stemmed from. So that's good news. And really it's just the simple fact of it is we're not going to know if Shaquille Leonard is back until we see him on the field. Because like I said, with nerve injuries, it's really just so finicky. And really there's no reason for Shaquille Leonard to be out there right now. Again, this is OTAs, it's spring practice. Leonard has done this numerous years before. So once we get to training camp, if things still aren't there, then maybe I would say there's some cause for concern. But as of right now, you just kind of have to listen to what Leonard is saying. He says he feels better. It's now about just rebuilding that strength. And when a lot of times with injuries to nerves and surgeries involving nerves like that, it really eliminates the entire muscle that has been built on. So you have to spend a lot of time really trying to build that up and walking that fine line as well between overworking it and then having a setback versus maximizing how much work and how much pressure you can really put on that nerve so you're coming back as quickly as possible. So I do know this. The Colts have a plan. The Colts internally are not worried that Shaq Leonard isn't going to come back 100%. They're pretty confident he will be able to. And that's just from some people I've talked to on the inside. But another thing that you can point to as far as from the outside as well, if the Colts really thought that they were going to have issues at linebacker and Shaq Leonard was not going to be able to come back, Bobby Okereke would still be here in a Colts uniform, or the Colts would have gone out and gotten another linebacker as insurance. Yes, they did re-sign EJ Speed, but you're not counting on EJ Speed to replace Shaquille Leonard. So we'll give it some time. Again, it's going to take a while. If we start getting into the later weeks of training camp and we still don't see Shaquille Leonard out there, then I think it's time to start worrying. But as of right now, I think the Colts are just following the plan, taking things easy, and they're not putting Leonard out there, number one, until he is ready, and number two, until it's closer to when the games actually start mattering.
Yeah, and it's like you said, especially with these nerve injuries and the fact that it's one of your defensive captains and it's a game changer, you really just want to, if you want to play on the side of caution, if anything, all right, listen to what
Mm-hmm.
he's saying because he's very outspoken. He's not going to lie to you about his body. He wants to get out there too. So I think that it's a little bit of give and take. I think that the medical staff is like, look, here's what we feel like you're at, and I think that he's like, here's where I feel like I'm at. And once they get that right connection, then you'll see him out there on the field.
Right. And let's go through the other guys that did not participate today and kind of give reasons as to why. Josh Downs was not out there. He's dealing with a little bit of a knee injury, nothing serious. Most of these, all of these injuries that that we're going to talk about, I've heard there's nothing serious, and the coaches have backed that up as well. Jelani Woods is dealing with a little bit of a hamstring pull. Drew Ogletree still working his way back from that ACL tear, was not out there, and then Will Mallory, the third tight end, was that missed today, also not out there. Starting right tackle Braden Smith dealing with a little bit of a leg injury, again nothing serious, but that did allow one rookie to kind of take his place in the starting lineup that we're going to talk about here in a bit. Cornerback Juju Brents, the Colts' second-round pick, still dealing with that wrist injury that he had surgery with after the combine. Again, nothing serious. Colts just want to make sure that wrist is fully healed before they get him out there. So I would expect Juju Brents to probably maybe mandatory minicamp, but more likely training camp is when we'll start to see that second-round rookie. Matt Gay also did not practice today. Neither did Rigoberto Sanchez, who is recovering from that Achilles tear that he suffered in training camp last year, but Shane Steichen said that he is progressing well. No timetable on his return, but again, if the Colts had any concerns that Sanchez wasn't going to return, they would already have a punter in there as well. So I fully expect Rigo to make a full recovery and becoming that weapon on special teams that he was before the 2022 season. But with this, with some of these injuries, that allows some of the rookies to really shine. And some of the rookies have been making noise throughout OTAs. And one of them is fourth round offensive tackle Blake Freeland, who, as I mentioned, Braden Smith was out today with a leg injury. Blake Freeland was the one that stepped in at right tackle for the Indianapolis Colts today as the first team right tackle. And I really think this is going to be what Blake Freeland's role is for this season. He's still a raw prospect. Obviously, as a fourth round pick, you haven't put everything all together yet, but he's incredibly athletic. He has experience playing right tackle and left tackle, and I think he can really step up and be a solid swing tackle for the Colts here in 2023.
And that's a very valuable position because your tackles are so important. And at any given moment, if even there's one tweak of the ankle, that could be a game. And that is a full game you need to play. So, and we saw him on Shot and Destin's show. He's just he's ready to work. He literally is ready to do anything that the coaches ask him to do. So you love that. And he even said, I'll be down to play any position, but either, if I'm a swing tackle, that's fantastic. So I think that with his athleticism, I think that he could really make an impact. And 6'8", he's going to have to get better at shortening those arms a little bit. But man, the fact that he's impressing people with Braden Smith out, that's just wonderful news.
Right. And if he has a stellar spring and summer and Will Fry starts to struggle at right guard, don't rule out the Colts shifting Braden Smith inside to right guard where he played in college and giving Blake Freeland a shot there at right tackle. That's very much on the table. That's an option that's definitely on the table if that right guard spot starts to struggle. So just keep that in mind. On defense, fifth round pick Darius Rush had a big play today, getting an interception that would have been a pick six of Sam Ellinger when the third stringers were out there doing work on 11 on 11. Pretty cool to see. I mean, I was surprised that Darius Rush fell to the fifth round. I think the Colts had a day 2 grade on Darius Rush. I certainly did. We all thought Darius Darius Rush were going in the 3rd round. Colts were able to pick him up in the 5th, and he really could be quite the steal for the Indianapolis Colts moving forward.
Yeah, I know he was one of my biggest steals for the Colts. Obviously, everyone talked about Josh Downs not being drafted in the 1st or 2nd round, but look, man, the fact that Darius Rush fell to the 5th, I mean, he was like a 2nd or 3rd round prospect. Okay, that's ridiculous that he fell that far. And like you said, if he has that kind of playmaking ability, he's lightning quick. He can turn those kind of plays into devastating, scores or potentially, field positioning type of plays. If he gets that ball, he might be gone. So the fact that he's already doing it against veteran quarterbacks, Ellinger, he has been with the team, I think 3 years now. So it's one of those things where, look, Ellinger got picked off by a rookie and he could have taken it back for 6. That's got to boost his confidence, and it impresses his defensive backs coach.
Darius Rush, another athletic freak, and we've got to remember this as well. Kenny Moore II is in a contract year. So is Isaiah Rodgers Sr. So 2 of the Colts' 3 starting cornerbacks are in contract years. I mean, there is a real possibility that neither one of those guys is back in 2024, or they both could be back. We'll have to see how things shake out. But the Colts, when you're drafting a guy like Darius Rush, who I think has starting level potential there on the outside, I mean, it'd be a lot easier for the Colts to decide those things if they have Darius Rush waiting in the wings, to take over as a starting cornerback. So we'll have to watch his progress throughout the summer and throughout his rookie season as well. And then the final one I wanted to shout out is Titus Leo, the small school defensive end from Wagner. Again, he was running with the 3s today, but he ended practice with a sack. He ended practice today with a sack, started flashing some pass rush moves. And while he is super raw. I think he only played defensive end at Wagner for 2 seasons. He was like a safety, and then a linebacker. Then he moved finally to defensive end. So he's got experience all over the defense. But I mean, he's a guy that was known for his work ethic and someone that was obsessed with getting better in whatever position he was playing. So I mean, he's probably got an uphill battle to make this roster. But hey, I mean, he keeps performing like that. It's going to make it tough for the Colts not to have him on the 53-man roster come September.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that he was a safety because he's kind of an undersized defensive end. I think he's like 6'3", 245, which is I think that's kind of about the same body type as EJ Speed or Darius Leonard. Maybe about 15 extra pounds. So, like you said, he's got a little bit of an uphill battle. But the fact that you drafted him expecting nothing, okay, from a small school like that, and he's impressing you against your 3rd stringers, and he did not just sack. That's pretty cool, actually. I love that story because he could be used. I even said this with his body type. Maybe he could be even used as a linebacker in some sets. So there's some versatility there. And he's, like you said, very athletic, like the entire draft. That's a name to look out for, because if he ends up making the roster, that's pretty cool that he made a roster from Wagner University.
And the thing is, Gus Bradley is not afraid of smaller defensive ends. I mean, he literally has a position in his defense for smaller defensive ends. It's called the Leo position. It's where Yannick Ngakoue played last year. I mean, Yannick Ngakoue was only 6'2", 6'3", 230, 40 pounds. Wagner's about that. Or I'm sorry, Leo is from Wagner, is only about 6'2", 6'3", 240 pounds. But that Leo position in the Gus Bradley defense is all about getting those smaller, quicker pass rushers out in that wide 9 stance, pinning their ears back and saying, hey, go get the quarterback. So I think Titus Leo in the Leo position, it's really a perfect fit for this Gus Bradley defense. We'll have to see how he really adapts to that. But those were all the updates that we had today coming out of Colts OTAs. I'm sure we will have plenty more as the weeks go along here. And then what's really going to tell us a lot is that mandatory mini camp, when everybody will be there. We'll have full pads, full everything, full contact, and we'll see how Anthony Richardson and this Colts offense, what's got a lot of new pieces, can go up against a defense that was pretty solid until the very end of the year last season. So it's going to be fun to watch and see. But to end the show here, let's talk about the latest Colts news and rumors as always. And the Colts have now signed 9 out of their 12 draft picks with the addition of defensive tackle Adetomiwa Adebawore, the athletic freak. Again, I'm going to keep using that for multiple guys in this draft class out of Northwestern. And it's just good to see that. I mean, obviously these Colts, all the Colts draft picks will be signed eventually, but the sooner you can get all this done, the better. Don't have to worry about it. Now Adebawore can just focus on football.
Well, and he's one of my favorite picks. He's like a really stiff jab in boxing. It's that short length, but my goodness, does it ever stop you in your tracks? That dude is going to be a freak show on the defensive line. Runs a 4.4940. I bet the Colts are absolutely ecstatic to just get him focused on just football. So that's awesome that they got him on contract. And now I think they still have Anthony Richardson, Josh Downs, and Juju Brents, if I'm not mistaken, right? Aren't those or there's 4 left? No, that is it. There's 3.
Yep, correct. Just those 3 are left to sign, and I'd expect it to get done fairly soon. So nothing to worry about there. The Colts made another move, signing a tight end now to another crowded tight end room, adding former Giants tight end Caden Smith. He has some experience starting at tight end for the Giants. I think he started 22 games from 2019 to 2021. 52 catches for 450 some yards and 3 touchdowns. Just remembering that off the top of my head in a Giants uniform. He did that. Caden Smith did not play last year. He failed his physical with the Giants last spring, causing him them to cut him. So he's been out of the league for a year, but it seems like everything has been fixed with that knee. Colts are bringing him in for competition to an already loaded tight end room.
And I actually wrote the newser on this. I think that this is legitimately just getting the absolute best names that they can possibly put in that tight end room. And it's a position that was really missing last year, and it wasn't used correctly, I think, by Frank Reich. This is no knock on him, or Jeff Saturday, who had no idea what he was doing. So it's understandable why they weren't used correctly. But this is a room loaded with talent. And this is just another guy who is built kind of like Jack Doyle and kind of plays similar to him. Obviously, he's not at the same skill level, but now it's the notable names are Caden Smith. This is from reverse to first, I think, as far as the depth chart. Caden Smith, Will Mallory, Pharaoh Brown, who I think is who Smith has been brought in to push, actually, is Pharaoh Brown, Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson, Andrew Ogletree, Jelani Woods. That's 7 names. That's ridiculous. Those are just the notable ones.
7 tight ends. And then I had a way too early roster prediction piece. I have the Colts keeping 5 of those guys. But it's going to be between Mo Alley Cox, Pharaoh Brown, and Caden Smith for that Y inline tight end, the blocking tight end. Those 3 are going to be the ones that are going for it. When you're talking about, I mean, Woods has the size to kind of play inline and out in the slot. He was mostly used out in the slot. Drew Ogletree can kind of do that as well. And then you're kind of looking at Kylan Granson and Will Mallory as more of your move slot tight ends more than anything. But it's going to be a hell of a competition. Competition always brings out the best in people, and to bring in all of those tight end bodies, I think it just signifies that Shane Steichen really has a plan for these tight ends, and he wants to make sure he gets the best guys possible to be able to go out and execute that. So I know that the Colts already have huge plans for Jelani Woods this season, as they should. I think he is going to have a monster year with Shane Steichen and really assert himself as that tight end 1 for the Indianapolis Colts moving forward. But hey, it's going to be one of the more fierce competitions, I would say, throughout the spring and throughout training camp, is just watching these tight ends go to battle. I mean, we all saw how Drew Ogletree was the star of training camp last year. This is a really big year for Kylan Granson going into year 3, and he still doesn't have a touchdown. But yet he's the one of the guys that can create the most separation out of any player on the Indianapolis Colts team. Will Mallory, that young tight end who could fall into that category as well. And then does Mo Alley Cox end up as the odd man out? Do the Colts cut him to save some cap space? Is there a trade partner out there? We're going to have to see. There's a lot of drama with the tight end room, but I think it's a lot of good drama as far as trying to find the best players and putting them in the best spot to succeed. And then to make room for Caden Smith, the Colts waived guard Harris LaChance. He was an undrafted rookie free agent they signed after the draft. But hey, it also calls into question, the depth there on the Colts offensive line. That still seems to be lacking. They're putting a lot of faith in Will Fries, maybe Emil Kior shows out, the undrafted rookie out of Alabama who is projected to go in the 4th round. That's definitely going to be a battle to watch, is the interior of that offensive line, particularly at right guard.
Yeah, and I was a little bit sad about this one because LaChance was a teammate of goodness, I forgot Blake Freeland. He was a teammate of Blake Freeland, so I just thought it was kind of cool that if he could stick with the roster, they knew each other from college and they probably play, maybe even scrimmaged with each other and stuff like that and practice constantly. So that's to obviously to potentially they might even bring in another guard that they feel like might be more qualified, because that's a position I can promise you they're not going to take lightly. They're going to make absolutely sure that they don't screw up the guard position. And like you said, who knows? Maybe they believe in Freeland enough that they move Smith. They shock the world and move Smith right back to right guard. That's a position that kind of like the tight end room, maybe not as crowded. There's a lot of like what ifs, like what's going to happen, who's going to start day one. That's a position to watch on the line.
A lot of time between now and September, and I think it's going to be fun to watch all of these battles play out. But that's our show for this evening, guys. We really appreciate you all tuning in, having a lot of fun with us, talking about OTAs. Shout out to Quentin, who had to go to bed, Sky, Patrick, Stats Matt, CMDSR, Uncouth. That's a new one. Great to have you here. AP. I saw Rich Wheeler was in here. Didn't see Logan. Logan Schmidt, what's up, buddy? We got Stats Matt off 1 week. Logan Schmidt today. You guys are slacking. Shout out to Kimberly Dove. Shout out to my wife for the super sticker there. Courtney as well. You guys are the absolute best. And if you haven't done so already, please, would really appreciate it if you go give us a follow on all the things, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Follow at Colts on FN on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, whenever Destin and Shad are going live, because content, like I said, it's flowing, and it's going to be flowing all summer long till we get to training camp, which honestly only about 2 months away. So it's closing in quicker than you think. Drake, I know you've been writing away on the site as always. What are some things that people can check out that you have posted on horseshoehuddle.com?
So I did that. I believe Jim Irsay's back to business type of Jim Irsay after a really rough 2022. I did a piece on Ballard actually falling below average on a general manager's ranking list of all 32. And then similar to that, Anthony Richardson was placed dead last on a top 32 quarterbacks list. But if you go read, you'll see why.
Wanted to give a shout out to Truitt as well. Can't miss Truitt there, who's always in the chat. But yeah, Drake's got some great pieces out there. Definitely go check those out. Like I said, I've got a piece out there, a way too early roster prediction. I've got 5 tight ends in there, only 5 linebackers, and 8 offensive linemen. So go check out who I have making the Colts roster. And we could check back on that back in September to see how wrong I actually am about all this. And then I also just posted literally about maybe less than 2 hours ago a recap of what Shane Steichen had to say about Anthony Richardson's progress throughout OTAs. Really did a deep dive into that, so make sure you check that out. Got a lot of good nuggets from Coach Steichen about the possible QB1 heading into the season. But go follow Drake at DWalsterDrake. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL. Forgot to say that if you can't listen to us live, always subscribe and give us a review on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever you use. And guys, we will be back on Monday night to talk more Colts football with you all. But until then, enjoy a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Shout out to anybody that has served or will be serving for our military. Because of you guys, we are able to do a Colts podcast talking about our favorite team twice a week, and it's all because of you fighting for our freedoms. So thank you so much for your service, and until next time, have a good one.